is Rock and Roll Grad School with your hosts, Heidi Hedquist and Luke Poling. This ain't no nightclub or CBGBs, but for their sake, let's just pretend it is.
Hello, kitties. Hello, Betty. Hello, Heidi.
Betty. Hello.
We are talking with the great Betty.
Yes.
Today. Holiday shows, Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm.
And since we've talked to them, they've gone up at least 1%. I should just check again right now and see how they're doing on Kickstarter. But the last time they're moving up, like they're doing it.
That's good. But our listeners should still help them get over the top.
No, there's nothing better than, the goal is a goal, but more is always better.
Indeed, yes.
And so it's a fun conversation, and we should try to keep it brief, I guess, because it goes on for a bit.
True.
We go into some stuff.
Let them speak for themselves.
Exactly, but quickly. Winterlicious.
Yes, indeed.
My God. Very similar to Elton John's backup percussionist.
Mm.
We were watching the show, and I thought, I wish I was as joyful and as happy about anything in my life that than her two backup dancers were.
Wow.
These guys loved it.
All right.
And they've been with her for 30 years. Like her whole band has been there. A lot of it was backing tracks, which I'd never really seen before.
Okay.
But she did all your favorites.
All my holiday favorites?
And then some.
Debbie
favorites. Both.
I mean, I've seen Debbie.
We got Out of the Blue. We got
Electric
Youth, certainly. We Shook Our Love. It was great.
Nice.
There were costume changes, not usually a thing. I think that, bless you, Randy, I think the last show I saw that had costume changes was The Darkness.
Mm.
Same,
Of course, yeah.
But it was like a great, the Deb heads are unbelievable.
Yes.
Because they are true, they are very much the equivalent to Deadheads. There was a woman there who had seen Debbie. Randy, damn it. There was a woman there who had seen Debbie 20 times this year.
Wow.
And God bless her, but Debbie is not performing Dark Star.
No.
No.
She's not. That's a lot.
Did you tell her? Did you tell her? Did you tell her? Did you tell her about us? Did you tell her? Did you tell her what we did? Did you tell her? Did you tell her I talked dirty? Did you tell her? Did you tell her that you screamed? Did you tell her we went somewhere dark so we couldn't be seen? Did you tell her?
So Friday night was the first of your holiday shows this year?
Mm-hmm. That's right. It was in Boston. So we drove up from New York, remembering in our heads that it was under 3-hour drive, but it actually turned out to be a 5-hour drive because Prince William and Kate and Biden were all in town, and it was a Celtics game. So it was really crazy, but we got to see Boston as it truly is in all its color and flavor, and we had a really great time.
So what does the holiday shows consist of? Is it stuff off of Snowbiz, or is it your regular Jingle Bell Rock and such?
Oh, no. It's all our own music. Maybe we'll throw in a twisted version of another song, like our version of Jingle Bells that's on the album. But mostly it's it's like Christmas Ain't Coming, things like that. But it's also a mix of our regular music and some of our music to come on our new album.
And the way it all started was we were doing holiday shows here in New York. We've been doing them, Betty's been together for 36 years. I know, it's amazing. And in band years, that's like a century and a half.
Right.
But we've been doing these holiday shows in town, and we would always have the same guest, who was Gloria Steinem. Every year we would have Gloria Steinem come and read something, because she's a friend and she's so fun. And she would do these really great lists and all. And then we started taking that out on the road, not with Gloria, but just with ourselves and the music. But it's basically around a theme. Like last year was the Holly Jolly Apocalypse. And this year is a very open-ended togetherness love theme because we figure we need that more than anything else. But those shows that are still remaining, we have our fabulous With Gloria show here in New York on Sunday, December 11th, which we're really excited about. City Winery. There's only about 7 tickets left. So your first 7 people who listen to this need to rush and get their tickets from
Get on it.
City Winery.
Yeah.
That's right. It's at City Winery at 7 o'clock. And then our final holiday show of the entire season is going to be the Wednesday after this one, which is going to be on the 15th of December in Washington, D.C. at City Winery at 7:30. And I say that with joy in my voice because Betty started in Washington, D.C.
That's
So it's
awesome.
really a homecoming show.
Yes, and that's perfect for so many reasons.
Why? Why do you say that, Heidi?
Well, I think it's perfect for the whole, full circle coming home, right? It's perfect for the obviousness of the climate we've been in for so long. And this little moment, not to jinx it, of some of the things that have just come out of recent elections, of this renewed sort of love is still out there. Still hanging on. It might just be
Still
a little bug
legal.
right now.
Yeah.
Still legal. We're still okay to be a girl. All kinds of things, So I think
Not if you want an abortion.
Well,
Maybe
they're-
if you want an
we're working
abortion,
on it.
so-
Yeah.
Well, we're
it's-
trying.
We've all been working on it for a long
Exactly.
time.
Working
Yes.
on it.
I mean,
But-
the reason they should have done what they did with gay marriage, they should have done that in Senate and Congress when it had to do with strictly women, and they didn't.
course.
And it's a huge
Yeah.
mistake, and the Democrats need to wake up and see that the people that are voting them into office are women of color in particular.
Yes.
So that's something that we really need to keep in mind, that was a huge mistake, but it was also, if they don't see it now, that's what got people to the polls and that's what got people to vote, then I don't see when they're ever going to see it. You can't deny the fact that when you take away Roe v. Wade, then we come out and we speak our voice.
Mhm. And that's
And,
Elizabeth speaking. That's Elizabeth of Betty. Sorry,
Yes, so-
that's Elizabeth of Betty, and I'm Aly of Betty. I'm sorry, we didn't introduce
We
ourselves.
should have
We
said
just
hello,
opened.
Betty.
It's a
and-
nightmare. It's a nightmare. We
Yeah.
completely ruined the podcast already.
Oh.
Luke, Heidi, what's going
Oh my
on?
God.
I know. Well, we
But-
never said we were professional. We said we were backstage.
Yes,
and
we just said we've been
relaxed.
doing this. Yeah.
Right. We didn't say we're any good at it.
I just wanted to comment on something that Elizabeth just said, though, and that is that you in Detroit have
Yes.
a phenomenal governor and
We
are
do.
leading this nation in all kinds of the thing that just passed.
Yes. So we are, that's why I think I feel a little more hope as a girl because I'm in Detroit. And
Right.
we had a lot of people cross aisles and
Yes.
come on over and vote the right way because we had a very important bill on
Yes.
and there was some very sneaky marketing happening
Yes.
around here of things like, protect women's health, vote no on proposal 3. But
Right.
for my belief system, we needed to vote, seemingly our belief system here
Mhm.
needed to vote yes on proposal 3, which we
And
did
they
overwhelmingly. Yes.
I know, Heidi. So that's what I'm saying. That's where I have hope. And you, Luke,
Yes,
over there in
exactly.
Pennsylvania, you
We
got Fetterman out there.
finally, and yeah, Josh Shapiro, which seemed like
Yes.
that was going to be a gimme, but there was always that because of 2018, I was just like, I don't want to jinx it. I don't want to take anything for granted. Just
hear you.
It's
assume.
Roe v. Wade. It's Roe
Yeah.
v. Wade that did that all across the board.
Yep.
And so people need to understand that, especially the people in office. And it's great, and we've known that since the beginning of Roe v. Wade. We've known that. And
It's not been
just something
subtle.
No.
Yeah.
No, but they haven't paid attention to it and they haven't really given credence and they
Yeah.
haven't put the money into those parts of the population. And I think people are waking up because the younger people are being voted in now, and that and gun control. I think it's a big issue that's been a turning point, a flashpoint for the Democrats and also Republicans. Republicans don't want to send their kids to school to get shot. They don't want
You
to
would
do
think,
it.
yeah, you hope.
Yeah.
I mean, the ones that are sane.
Well, sure, that's always the sticking point.
Yeah.
Small
details.
detail.
Yeah.
But I am very gratified about some of the people who are now in our political places, like
too.
Malcolm Kenyatta there in Pennsylvania, Malcolm Kenyatta is someone that I've been following for a while. He's phenomenal. And there are just so many great people that are, I would never want to be a politician. Can you imagine what life must be like? But the people who are sacrificing their lives for the good of all of us, I'm, kudos to them. I'm really happy about that. And I do feel that America's headed in the right direction, which is, Elizabeth uses the analogy of a rubber band. The rubber band had to stretch back to like spring us forward. And I really feel like that's what's happening right now.
I agree.
One of the things I thought was interesting when I saw you perform in New Hope was this balance between fun songs, kind of a lighthearted approach. And it sounds like the holiday shows are nothing but celebrating and having a good time, and maybe a little looser than your typical show, a typical Betty show. But at the same point, I feel like you take this moment to sort of acknowledge, like, but here's the serious stuff that's going on, and we can all dance and have a good time. But when the foot comes down, we got some things we got to get done here. And is that a difficult needle to thread for you as performers?
Not at all, Luke. Luke, that is exactly who we are. We've always said that our holiday shows are not so happy holidays because there is a lot of joy and celebration. But, Elizabeth and her sister Amy in the band are both Jewish. I'm Black. We know what it's like to be out there no matter what. You always have to have your joy, but there are huge issues in your life. I think the reason that we have been together for 375,000 years now is because we all have the same impetus. We all want to right the wrongs, and we have to address them when they come up, but we have to try and do it in a way that doesn't smash people over the heads. You know what I mean?
It doesn't make us insane. You can't make yourself crazy. You have to be able to imbibe and have fun and dance and talk to your friends and celebrate things. And I think that the left has really become much more celebratory. That's something I've watched through all the demonstrations and things. It's still very angry, but it's also there's a lot of humor and a lot of love in it. And a lot of just like, are you fucking kidding me? Seriously. And I think that's one thing that's really great about what's happened on the liberal side of America, because it has become so ludicrous and so insane on the right, especially since Trump was elected, that we've had this outburst of humor has come into protesting that's always been there in the LGBTQ community, but now I think it's really spilled over to the whole community. So I think that's a good way that we've kept ourselves sane, especially during the pandemic too.
And one thing I've always told my kids when we go to protests or marches or any of the BLM things, saying, whatever side you are on, this is the side that's always going to have better music. Like, hands down, it's always going to be more enjoyable to dance with these folks than with the other folks across the street screaming.
It's so true. Although they keep stealing our songs.
They do that. It's quite rude.
You got to fight fire with fire.
I know, but what's great is that when people stand up and they're like, no, you can't use that song. Tom Petty's people were like, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We just have to keep writing new ones, which is what Betty is all about,
And one thing I was thinking about last night, it's a little bit of a roundabout way, but my wife and I went to go see Debbie Gibson's Winterlicious show, which was everything you want and more from Debbie Gibson and her backup dancers. But she did sort of the token, I have to sing a song about Hanukkah. And it felt very much like it was written from a perspective, and every artist does this, I'm not singling her out, as grasping at straws to write a good seasonal Hanukkah song or a Kwanzaa song, not every artist, many. Thank you. How hard is it to write a song about a faith other than your own? How do you do, I was just confused because it was like nothing but, we touched on all the regular things. We touched on light, we touched on family and faith, and they might as well have just worked the word Meshuggah into this, because there's no other way. Like, we're just going to check off everything that says Hanukkah to anyone on TV.
Well, Elizabeth, you can direct Hanukkah. Yeah.
To me, being Jewish, Hanukkah is not about religion.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. I mean, Hanukkah is a very minor celebration in my family. and we weren't religious, but we're very cultural, and we didn't celebrate Christmas. We celebrated the Jewish New Year, and we celebrated things like that, Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah, mostly because we lived in a place that had no Jews, so we sort of had to represent. And but as far as Hanukkah goes, it's a pretty secular as far as like religious Judaism goes. Holiday. You light candles and you celebrate the festival of lights, which was supposedly a miracle that happened when oil was put into the temples,
Right.
when the first temple was destroyed back in Israel 5,000 years ago, when Jews were, it was our homeland, and the Romans came and destroyed it, and the Maccabees. Anyway, so the light that's supposed to be the eternal light went out, and the oil that was in there that was only supposed to last for a couple hours ended up lasting for eight nights. So that's really the celebration. So it really it's sort of a miracle that happened, but there's a lot of explanations for it. And I didn't even know about this until I was much older. So to write a song about Hanukkah, which I've never done, I don't think it would necessarily involve religion. Like Siri, talking about like religious things
in general, like there's a lot of Holly Jolly Christmas to Sleigh Ride. It's a Thanksgiving song. These songs that sort of evoke a season, and it just sort of seems like, why is it that nobody can kind of write something that feels very, the Christmas song, for example?
But we have, Elizabeth, you have misspoken, because we have Hanukkah songs in our show. We have a Hanukkah piece that we do called Cold Roof. And, it's who Amy and Elizabeth are. And yes, they don't look at Hanukkah through a religious lens. If anybody is going to be religious in this band, it would be me, because I'm, the church going person. But I have two answers for you about the music and why it is that we can speak to all faiths from our music. Both Elizabeth and Amy and I all grew up outside of America. We grew up with, their father was in the military. My dad, I was a Diplo brat. My dad was in the State Department. So every 2 years I'd move to a different country. So we are used to having all these different cultures and getting influences from all these different cultures, and then speaking through them to our audiences. So I think that's what sort of gives us a kind of a wider range of like, hey, we're all in this together. And the second reason is because the church that I go to, which is called Middle Church, is proudly known in New York City as the church with the most atheists of any church in New York. It is completely multicultural, even though it functions as a Christian church. It's Jewish people, it's Buddhists, it's all kinds of people go there. And so because we believe as this aggregation of people that are trying to make a better, more beautiful world, we believe that our language is the same when we celebrate. And we do speak of light, and we do speak of love, and we do speak of food. And I believe that that is such a universal constant that if you just speak from the heart through those things, then it's always going to ring true.
Then you add music.
Betty definitely speaks about sex and food, and that is very religious in and of itself. Yeah. It's a religious experience to have sex. It's a religious experience to eat a good meal. Yes. So there you go.
Right.
Touching everything.
Well, those are all, like you said, all the great unifiers, and you add music, right? You do that through music, which is the ultimate unifier. That's why, we all still love the same songs, whether we're allowed to play them or not. And it does bring people together. And I think that's so important. And I love
that's tradition. That's tradition. Yeah. So when you hear a song that brings you back to your childhood, that's nostalgic, you're not listening to the religious part of it. At least I'm not, because I was never religious, and I don't know about Christianity really. I know about it because it's the primary
beaten over the head with it. Yeah.
But I love songs. I love Christmas stuff. I love Christmas music. I love Christmas movies, because there's no bad connotation there for me. I have no experience with, oh my God, I have to buy these presents, or my parents are going to, it's going to be a bad thing with the family. It's going to be a good thing, whatever it is. I've had these traditions as I'm older. And one of my main traditions is the Betty Holiday show. So that's really my nostalgic tradition. So when we do sing the songs, whether they're about an Allison song, which is Christmas
Ain't Coming.
It says Christmas in it, but to me, it's just so nostalgic because A, it's a beautiful song, and B, it's we've been singing it for 20 years now. So that's what I think most people respond to, is the nostalgia and the good feeling of the music.
And you know,
Of
after
holiday
doing,
music.
and after having done it, thank you, Elizabeth, that was a beautiful answer. After having done it for so long, what's really, really gratifying is people will come up to us and say, after the show, now the holidays can begin. It's become a
Yeah.
tradition.
Wow,
It
there you
chokes
go.
me
New
up.
tradition.
It
Yeah.
chokes me up
Yeah,
because
but
it's like
every
we
year.
kick off people's holidays and it makes me really happy.
That is wonderful.
It is. And we didn't know it was going to become this kind of a thing where it would happen, annually, because honestly, it's not my choice to do a holiday show. It's not my biggest jam. It's not like, I want to do a holiday show because, for me, who cares? But I love playing music. And what I do love is I love the tradition of it. And I love seeing people come back year after year, and then people bringing friends and them coming back year after year. So we're playing in a really big place in New York and in DC. So it's just become something that's everything good about the holidays, which is family, whether it's blood family or not, celebratory, alcohol, food, and music. So.
Well, I was wondering about that too, because I feel like also because of everything you're saying, that nostalgia, that familial chosen or blood or what have you, it feels like that holiday show is also a really amazing opportunity to introduce your music, your message to people that perhaps wouldn't be inclined to come to one of your shows otherwise, right? Perhaps someone who hadn't been exposed to before. If someone says, there's this great band, they do this amazing holiday experience, you gotta come see it. I feel like it's a good entry point for maybe someone who is sort of, not to go back to the political side of things, but maybe someone who is sort of a fence sitter or who is sort of a disenchanted person on the right who wants to come back to reality or whatever it is. So that feels like there might be that aspect too.
Even if they don't want to come back to reality, whatever reality is for them,
yeah, true.
They want to, I think people want to connect.
Right.
And connection is key when you're at a live show. You don't necessarily have to have our politics. We have a lot of people, we have 37,000 people who follow us on Facebook.
Right.
They don't have they don't all have our same political motives. They don't agree with what we think and what we say. We don't all agree anyway.
Right,
the three
of
of
course.
us. We agree on certain things, pro-choice, etc. But so for people, especially now after the pandemic, to be visceral, to be face-to-face, to be in a group of people that are having an experience together, I think everybody's craving that. They're craving connection, and we make it easy in that spirit in the holiday shows. So I agree with what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. I have some dear friends who are mom friends. You know what I mean? When you drop your kids off and we become friends, who are full on Republican. I mean, like full on Republican. And the show that they come to is the holiday show.
Yeah.
Oh yes, you're right.
Bringing everyone together under one roof and celebrating.
One song at a time. I love it.
That's been forever. We got together in DC during Reagan, and we were vehemently anti-Reagan. It's when people were dying of AIDS and people wouldn't play at gay pride, and we played at these things, and it was very divisive. He was one of the first very, very divisive presidents. And we still had people that would come to our concert. Well, not one of the first, but Andrew Jackson, but
Nixon. There's been
a few.
But I mean, as far as like the LGBT community went, and while people were dying of AIDS and things like that, and when I came of age, I didn't come of age with Nixon. I was, at camp when he resigned. But it's people still, there was a sense still there that you could come together through music, no matter what the politics were. And I think that that's changed a bit. It's much harder to come together in America now. I think music and art are really some of the only things that will bring people back together, because it's become so crazy on both sides in a lot of ways, but especially on the right.
Yeah,
I would say music, art, and spectacle. Those are the three things that bring people together. You know what I mean? Like New Year's Eve, they're going to get together.
Yeah.
Sports events, that kind of thing.
That's so true. So the new record that you're working on, it's got to be daunting, especially in a holiday setting and environment, to be like, now we're going to play something new or something you haven't heard before and aren't super familiar with yet. We hope it will be one of your favorites down the road. Have you tested all the songs that are going to be on this record?
No, and that's
We
what's
haven't finished
thrilling.
recording. Yeah.
We're still recording. That's why we started a Kickstarter. We'd never done one before, but we have this album, and we were working with someone that we knew back in Washington, D.C. a long time ago from a band called 9353, when music was just hopping in D.C. and all different, like, people were coming together. And it was great. There's a wonderful man by the name of Jason Carmer who has a studio in Mexico City. Elizabeth sent him one of our songs saying like, hey, this is one of our songs. And he sent something back that was so great. We were like, he's the one we're going to do our album with. But he's in Mexico City. So we realized we had to raise money because we're an independent band. We almost always have been. And, usually people have labels that pay for things, and we just don't have it. We don't have a government like other countries do that support the arts in that way. So we are turning to crowdfunding for the first time. And at first I was really reticent to do it. It's not my jam, but it's turned into such a beautiful experience. I'm absolutely loving it. Because people aren't just coming in for the money. They're coming in because they want to be part of the creation of something. And
They
that's
want to be supportive of us, which is nice. They really want to be supportive of our music. They've always been supportive of our shows and of who we are as humans, but they really want us to have a new album. So that's exciting. And they're coming on board with and showing their love with money, which is how money should be used,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Good.
No, I was just going to say they're coming out of the woodwork. People like someone from my eighth grade English class, out of nowhere, all of a sudden was like, here, have $100. And it's been really wonderful. It's like it's like, this is your life. All these people coming together with a big basket and throwing things in for Clarence Oddbody to save your career. It's wonderful.
That's
especially after the pandemic, which is very difficult for artists and musicians. It was difficult for everyone, but specifically,
certainly,
play and you couldn't be together, and that was difficult. And this is just it is like us sitting there and people coming, dropping the dollars on the desk, and
awesome.
Saving the savings and loan. It's wonderful. It is. It's wonderful. It's it's so hilarious that we happen to do it in this season, because it really is. It's like a little bell ringing every single time someone comes onto our Kickstarter, and it just makes us so happy. And it's strangers now. It's people who I guess just like go on. I don't know Kickstarter, but I think some people just are on Kickstarter funding things all the time. And it's beautiful. It's really beautiful to see.
Well, and especially those, like the people who don't know you, right? It's like just that they just in what little introduction they've had, they feel that you're worthy of it. And also this time of year when everybody's coming at you to donate, and you've got to buy presents if that's what you do, and all those things. Like, it's just that further little angels getting their wings all over to have that happen. So
yeah, it is wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. And we're communicating with everybody. We send them little updates and special things. Anytime anybody has a question, we answer their questions. We've got great prizes, like really great prizes that I'm very excited about. So I'm hoping that your listeners will pop over and just take a look at the prizes, if nothing else, because I think they'll be entertained.
Yes. And when does it close? When does the campaign close?
Ooh, good question. That ends on December 16, which means I think we only have like about a week left.
Yeah.
With this airing when it is. So on week 4, we're really hoping that people can step up, and we're over 80% funded.
Sweet.
That's wonderful. And I feel like that end is always when you see it really kind of people who are on the fence be like, no, I got it. If not now, when?
Right.
They don't have to wait.
So.
And that's sorry, you were going to say, Elizabeth?
Hope so.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
People
will be like, oh, I gave that, but just that little bit budget, just like $20 more, it'll get them there. So you'll see
the thing about Kickstarter is if you're not fully funded, you don't get any of the money.
Right.
So, and I'm assuming too, as artists, like you said, Aly, you're not comfortable with it, kind of going hand in hand to your audience or everyone being like, hey, can you do us a solid? Art is hard.
it's a much bigger picture for a person like me. You know, maybe other people used to it. I am a doer. I'm the one that like gets things done. So there people are like, relegate, delegate. You know, I don't do that. So the thought that I'm actually having to delegate this responsibility to other people has been a really big life lesson for me. And that's why I'm saying it's so gratifying personally for me. It's like, it's really causing growth, spiritual growth as well. It's nice.
That's awesome.
It's
Yeah,
very
it
nice.
super is, Heidi.
Yeah, it really is. That's fantastic.
How long have you been working on this collection of songs? Was this sort of been a piecemeal? Because it's been a while. It's been a few years since the last record.
Yes. And you know what? During the pandemic was when when it was all shut down and we couldn't gig and we couldn't even use Zoom. Other people could use Zoom to keep on going, but we sing together. And anybody who's ever tried to sing Happy
course.
Birthday together, you can't do it on Zoom.
Right.
So that's when the idea really started to cement for us that we really needed to do this album. We have a couple songs on there that are older songs that we've been revisiting or we just haven't had a chance to record. We have some new ones and then we're like still writing some other ones too. So it's sort of like a little bit of everything.
Are you the kind of people who are just constantly writing all the time, or do you wait until it's sort of like that deadline of we got to finish this record, we got to have 10 things to go into the studio with?
We're constantly writing all the time, but we don't necessarily write together. Like I write all the time, Elizabeth does, and so does Amy. But it's when we come together, when we actually have time to come together, that's when we, you know, create more. And that's when it's a little bit more project oriented. But we're constantly writing. Anytime I'm riding a bike, I write songs pop through my head. I can't help it. It's just something about the turning of the wheels makes songs come up. What about you, Elizabeth? When do you find yourself writing?
I don't write that often. I write other things. I've been writing scripts. I've written scripts, a lot of scripts. I've been writing a book. I write pieces of songs that I have, a lot of different pieces, as you can tell from flow and things like that, that I have little, usually it's the chorus or something like that, and I'll put it into my phone, but then I won't finish the song. It's pretty rare that I complete a whole song unless I'm sitting down and it just happens. It flows through like soundproof, but even that was difficult. So it's difficult for me to finish a song. It's easy for me to start one. But other things are easier for me to write, you know, it's easier for me to write a pilot script than it is a song. I think songs are difficult. It's much easier for me to write a poem. I write a lot of poems. And I write, you know, letters to people and things like that. So
did you know that our friend Elizabeth here was actually a writer on the Showtime mega hit The L Word?
We may actually have known that.
So when she says that she's writing scripts, she knows what she speaks. I mean, she's written some incredible award-winning scripts.
Oh, that's nice. I don't know if they're award-winning, but they're good, and they got.
We can say they are.
We can create an award right now and award it to you, so it's official.
Yeah, but I think we all write different things. Allison's a great writer too. Like I would love for Allison to write a book.
I'm actually in a book right now. Thank you very much. Elizabeth Hines put the call out as soon as we heard about the Dobbs decision where abortion was being taken away from all women. Put out the call saying, okay, we need to write a book right now about women's abortions, women's experience with abortions. Then there was like a whole other explanation that I just didn't pay attention to, just the first part. Yeah. So I just sat down and I dashed off this story about my mother having, her reproductive journey, and sent it off to Elizabeth Hines. And then afterwards I realized, oh crap, I'm not writing anything that anybody else was supposed to write in the book, but they put it in the book anyway. And it's a wonderful book that I'm really excited about. I'm just going to go get it for you so you can take a look at it.
Yes,
please.
My sister is also writing a children's book right now that she's dealing with a publisher about. So we all write other things other than music. So yeah,
there we go. Aftermath.
The book is called Aftermath, Life in Post-Rural America, and it's got people like Ruby Sales and Linda Villarosa and Gloria Steinem and just a lot of amazing people have been in this book, and I'm gratified to be in it because I'm not usually this kind of a writer. So it's wonderful to sort of expand yourself from the poetry and songwriting that we usually do to a longer form. And Elizabeth is right, it is actually easier to write as much as you want to, as opposed to keep editing down as you have to as a songwriter. You have to edit it down and then sometimes even rhyme it. So this was a really fun experience for me.
Well, this is
And also,
really,
even stuff even stuff we write individually when we bring it to the band, it doesn't get done unless we all like it or something happens or it sparks something. So there's a whole, and then after we've been playing a song for a while, then we'll stop playing it. So we have a whole library of things that we don't play a lot. So it's interesting. It's just, after 37 years, you can imagine that the
Yeah.
songs change.
Sure.
well, that's what I was wondering, because Aly, you said how Zoom didn't work for the three of you because of the way you have your voices connect. Is it only sort of when the three of you are bringing stuff together to put together a song to kind of add those layers of voices? Does it feel like, oh, this is a Betty song?
Yes, it's when the three of us get together, that's when it happens. Although sometimes we'll also just like send around a recording and say, here's this, and someone else will respond with a recording. But generally it is like Elizabeth was talking about, there's a magic that happens when people are in the same room together. That's when, endorphins really flow and all that. And I think that is the chemical makeup of our band, is we really have to be in the same room.
And we need to be in the same room. We don't need to be in the same room to fight, which we do very often.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
We could do on Zoom easily.
Oh, for sure.
It was,
After 37 years, if there weren't fights, there'd be something really creepy about you guys.
Seriously, right?
Yeah.
But it's,
Yeah.
it's 36, but who's counting?
Yeah, details.
There were fights from the very beginning. It's my sister and I. So you can only imagine.
Yeah.
But we're family. Betty's sort of a way of life. Like I never envisioned that we were going to be together for this long, but it's just one day at a time, I guess. It's like, and things when we do play together and when it's good, it's amazing. You can't touch that feeling. Yeah.
And we've been so fortunate because, yes, we're a band, we go around, but most bands will like get into the van and do, 7 shows out and be gone for 2 weeks. And that's never been our case. We'll go and we'll go to, say, for instance, if we're doing a show in Red Rocks, we'll go out to Red Rocks, we'll be there for a week. Make some friends, hang out, do some shopping. And it's been our entire career. We have never, only the very beginning did we actually tour around. Like we'll go to Germany and, it's a long trip. So, you got to stay for 4 or 5 days to go to Oktoberfest. And it's been just this incredible. Someone said to me today, God bless her. She said, I've been living in New York for 20 years. My husband left and now I'm so lonely. And I was like, oh God, I totally hear you. And I feel for you, but I've never had that experience because Elizabeth, Amy, and I have been this little group, this little clique or whatever, that's been traveling around the world and having all these experiences for so long. I sometimes it would be nice to be a little lonely, but it's just, we don't have the opportunity to do that because we're, from South Africa to Sydney to Cincinnati, we've gone all over the world and it's been an incredible adventure and it continues to be so.
It's so funny you just mentioned that too. I literally just had this conversation with my sister on our way home today about how awful it is when you go travel the world and you're there for your show and then you're out and you don't even actually experience. Like the fact that you've prioritized the full experience is just, it's amazing. And it makes it so much better, makes everything better. It
absolutely
feeds the art better, probably causes more fights traveling together for longer periods of time, but the experiences you'll share forever.
Exactly. And that's why we have friends all over the world. And we're looking forward to play. Like we're going to be going to Thailand because there's a friend who's lives there, and it's really wonderful. And I think, again, it gives us a perspective on this country that maybe some people don't have because we have been able to synthesize these things that we've learned as a group, as a class, you know what I mean? All around for this long, for 3 decades. So it's really cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
And if any of your people ever were interested in finding out more about us, we actually have something that Elizabeth created, which is a podcast called Betty Girl Band, because people ask us questions all the time. So Elizabeth had the idea. Tell them about your idea.
Well, I did listen to podcasts. Now I listen to audiobooks, but I was listening and interested in podcasts, and a lot of the podcast audio doesn't sound great. And I have a studio, as you can see. And so I just wanted us to tell our story and the real story, because a lot of times in interviews, over the years, there's an amalgamation of what the story is. But we sat down and then I edited it. And so there's 13 episodes and we stopped like in the 80s. still, so we have the 90s to go and 2000s, but we have 13 episodes and they're on our website, hellobetty.com, under podcasts. And if you listen to it, you should listen to it literally in order, chronologically, because it starts with episode 1 and then it starts with us when we first got to know each other and our first band, and Allison, because she kept these archives, musical archives. So I transferred them digitally and then I use them. So it's a real look into our past, a sonic look into our past. It's interesting.
I actually had tapes from 1985 that we hadn't listened to, cassette tapes like this.
Wow.
They're just like stashed away because I moved around so much. I think that's why I cling on to whatever things I can hang on to. And so Elizabeth has edited together this really cool history, and you don't remember what you've forgotten, if you know what I mean. So when the three of us would get together, she would put up a microphone, the three of us would sit together, and then she would have like a prompt to get us started. Before we knew it, half an hour had gone by and we'd actually remembered things because we could come at it from 3 different angles. And it was just really, it's a great experience to go back and sort of like look at your life truly and see how far you've come.
Well, this is
life together. Because it's rare. It's rare that you have 3 people that aren't intimately involved, that have spent this much time together and shared so many experiences. And what's really interesting for me is to see that all of our memories are completely different.
So different.
Completely different. Yeah. So memory really is subjective.
Yeah.
And there's that whole thing about the 3 men who can't see who touch an elephant, and one's like, one holds its trunk and says, oh, it's like a snake, and one's that's exactly what it's like for us too. And these great stories of like when we met James Brown and all these other things coming from 3 different angles. So I think it's a really great podcast.
And on top of that, you have the synthesis of the art you've created, sort of, again, this sort of snake eating its own tail, just going around, and your experiences informing the art and the art informing the experiences, just again.
Betty as an Ouroboros, you're exactly
right. Well, I feel incredibly lazy and unproductive.
What do you think about it?
Yeah, my God.
Outside my window, the snow on the ground. There used to be sugar, the salt melted brown, and the fairy lights strung on the fire escape are broken and flapping like old cassette tape. The bells on the block.
To find all of these links, you can go to their Linktree account, linktr.ee/BettyRules. You can check out their website, hellobetty.com. And if you want to get directly to the Kickstarter page, they are at kickstarter.com/project/Betty-the-new-album. Let's get them over the top. Let's get this record made.
You can check us out on all the various socials. Be sure to visit our website at rockandrollgradschool.com. And don't forget to leave us a review.
Today's show is produced by myself and Heidi Hegquist. Our reluctant producers are John Sauvé and Sandy Stone. Our willing producers are Rachel Allen and Randy Jeanette. Our intern is Zach Jackson. This one's for Philippe. Thank you, good night, and may all your favorite bands stay together.